again, like yours first place, right? As far as I remember correctly, second place, and this is the third place, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, what do you think the judgment criteria looking at those three examples for the winners were? Like, what do they all kind of have in common? Were they picked? Even if you don't agree with the third place, like you said.
In general, they all are more exactly to the topic in kind of what you told me when you first talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
That mine has a kind of a different story because it's a new robot that got damaged. And it's not an 100 years old robot like all three winners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this, if the criteria is really that hard, seems to be. Um, yeah, the first place, I think it's really great in every way. The colors are very pleasing. The composition at all. Lighting is great. I'm not sure if on the left side the hotspot is a little, just a little titch too much blown out, but maybe this is because it gives a higher impression of the temperature in this scene, right? Scenes
Yeah.
in the desert are often overexposed to deliver the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
do you
mean,
agree?
I do agree. I would say that all of these, besides the point that they are um, all keeping to the core kind of idea of the challenge, which was um, abandoned robot, very literally, right? Besides that, I think all that they have in common is the amount of work and detail that has been put into them. There's a lot of things here, even the third one, with which you said you don't agree, that you can see the technical quality of it is miles ahead of everyone else. Some of the others that did not win had similar levels of quality, but slightly less so. For example, I picked one that I personally like, was this one. Didn't even get an honorable mention. I think this is a very clean, very achievable result for this challenge if you had very little time to do it. Because the modeling on this couldn't have been very hard. It's largely just, basic geometric shapes. But then the detail comes from the paint job that this robot's gotten with all the chipped off paint, etc. And the mood, the lighting, the composition, this looks all really great. So, but looking back at these three, so the winners, they all have geometric detail in like in droves. That's what takes them apart from other submissions that didn't have this amount of geometric detail put in. I think this is what the judgment was about mostly. The kind of the work, the technical work that went into creating this is probably pretty insane. Obviously, not everyone can spend as much time on it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But I think that this could have been still achievable for us, so the second place. When I say detail or geometric detail, I mean there are a lot of elements that fill the screen up and give it like an amount of wear and tear, and they fit with the theme. Yours is largely empty. It's very focused on your centerpiece, and I think this is what was weighed much higher than even the idea of the abandoned robot itself.
Mm, okay. It's the blue robot is it works with the story because it's a room from a child, and all the stuff he don't play with he places in this
Yeah.
corner. So the story is okay, everything fits. And if you see my story, it is a room where robots can just put away themselves. So what stuff should be in that room? That room is only, it has the switch and the door. If I have a lot of stuff, a lot of any things that would not meet my story, right?
Yeah, I understand. And look, I when we talked about this last time, I didn't want to give you feedback on the story because I didn't want to interfere within your creative process. So I didn't want to tell you like, no, this is, I don't think this is a good idea. Don't do that, because my place isn't to question your kind of storytelling, but maybe, and this is something to consider for future challenges, not every story is conductive for winning a contest, right? And not every story is interesting visually without additional content or additional like storytelling that needs to go into it. So if you made this into 3 panels, maybe then I can't tell you how you could do this, because in my opinion the story doesn't fit the theme, but it's your story, and I didn't want to interfere with that. That was your decision, and I think we teased out as much as we could out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And in general, you gave me the hints with the damage. I tried to achieve the directional scratches and some more details.
No, I think you like implemented the feedback quite well with the damage. I think I like this part where, you know, it breaks in a specific direction. There's clear scratch marks of something going through it. The arm is bent backwards. It was ripped off. I think this works, right?
Oh,
And you fit this small element here to make it look more like it's part of the robot. This looks fine. I think the robot in itself is pretty okay. The wheels are standing out from this a little bit, but this is, you know, we can work on something for 1,000 hours and nitpick it to death. The only thing that really bothers me is this background, the image that you put in here. Sorry, this seems to be stretched in the horizontal.
do you like this idea with this recycling picture more than my instructions sheet?
Yes, definitely. Like just between like the previous wall of text, this is much clearer to read. Really, the only thing that bothers me that is that it seems stretched, like wide, too wide in the aspect ratio. Something went wrong in the UV unwrapping. I don't know.
I just think the overall look in the widescreen now is better than the first one with the portrait mode.
Yeah, although I would have added some kind of features to the wall. Maybe that's what was missing from it. Maybe some kind of tiling on the wall, like technological, you know, metal tiles. Could have been some wiring that you can see behind it, or something glowing. I don't know how high tech it should look, but considering this is an old school lever, it could have been also older. But I like it better than the worn out aesthetic that you had before. Yes.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure about the widescreen because this gives more room for empty space. So the portrait mode picture was more filled with the robot itself. So maybe then it hasn't looked as empty. but yeah, I think this is more subjective.
Um, I mean, it really depends on, and it would have depended on what you fill this space up with. You could have had tracks leading
Mm.
down up to it, right? Give it a little bit of texture, not like the totally worn out texture on the walls that we had before, but if we thought about adding some tracks leading up to it where you can see multiple robots have been going up and down this
Mm.
place, elements could be here, some kind of technological boxes that have no descript feature or um, purpose, as the viewer would be concentrated on this, but they would help fill this up. You could have moved the camera a little bit more to the left, but like I said, I think we took this as far as it could go. In hindsight, maybe the idea wasn't entirely conductive for this particular topic.
Mm.
I've done enough Blender challenges. I mostly did weekend challenges though back in the day, where I didn't win, to know that some of the more creative ideas are just not picked because they're too hard to read and you need to put a lot of time and work into making them actually work.
Yeah.
So for example, there was a topic, and let's be like really aware here. We're talking 2009, so 9 years ago, and this is before cycles, before modern Blender. I don't know how long you've been with Blender in total, but I've been working with it since I think 2005 or something. And one of the weekend challenge topics is life is what you make it. And I took it really literally in this one, right?
Okay.
And this one. And this was also really easy to do and really easy to achieve.
This was done in Blender.
Yeah, this is Blender.
It's all 3D. It looks very
No,
2D.
this is everything is 3D. These are all old glass shaders from Blender internal.
Okay.
The grain has not been added to it. I just used a very low sample size to get that. And this is all Blender. Another example of, in my opinion, I like this render, which didn't win, is what was it called? Old MP3 player. I took it very far with a really old MP3 player. I made it into like this old-timey, like steampunk looking crank thing, and this didn't win. Even though I put a lot more work into this, modeling the what are they called, electron bulbs, and all the wiring, and I think that this material-wise, and this is an older render, is way better than the previous one. So sometimes quality doesn't win it either. I'm just saying this so we have like a perspective on winning and not winning a challenge doesn't actually mean anything.